So, interesting that the title of this session is about transformation. My journey that I want to take you through is a journey of transformation of an entire company. So I want to share with you in 20 minutes the journey we've been on inside Xerox, a company that has an incredibly strong heritage and brand, which can be a big advantage and can be a big challenge when you're trying to change things, around innovation and around technology. And in fact, this year is the 75th anniversary of this guy's greatest achievement. This is Chester Carlson, and it was 75 years ago he invented xerography. And as you will see as we go through this presentation, 75 years on, the company that has grown to greatness around this is actually a totally different company than what you would have perceived it on day one. So it's an interesting discussion and conversation around this. One of the reasons I've been asked to present here is over the last 4 years I've sponsored some work with Cranfield Business School and latterly Aston Business School, looking at how basically technology and product-based companies servitize their business. So how we can shift our business model from being a product supplier to a service supplier, and what that means to us as an organisation, how we have to change. And the short answer to that is there isn't one thing in your business you don't have to change to become a service-based company. Everything has to change. That's not always obvious when you start on the journey. And secondly, you know, the impact that has on your relationship with your customers who suddenly become clients. And you know, the world looks quite different from that perspective. So our services journey started off, really, we were a bit of a hobby for Xerox. We were in the shed at the end of the Xerox garden doing our busy things through the 90s. Basically, we had two small businesses, one focused on facilities management, which was really supplying people to operate equipment in the basement of our customers. And the second one was a small consulting business, which is how I got lured into joining Xerox to run this consulting business, helping people think a bit more about the paperless office and what that would mean. The reason I'm using the shed metaphor was, you know, we were a tiny business responding to a couple of requirements our customers had, compared to this enormous giant of an organisation that had a very well-polished sales machine and technology delivery machine selling photocopiers across the worldwide market. But we grew in our shed. We won some quite unusual contracts with customers. I can remember one consulting contract we won for a European engineering company based in Sweden, which was called the Paperless Plant Handling System. I got this email from the general manager of Xerox Sweden, who said, I've got to see you about this. Why on earth are we selling a project to a customer that's paperless plant handling when our whole business is selling technology that prints paper? What are you doing? You're mad. And that was one of the starting points on this journey at the end of the 90s, where it's saying, well, actually, don't lose sight of where the market's going. In the future, our ability to do this is going to be critical to the company's success as we go forwards. Xerox had a difficult transition from the 90s to the beginning of this millennium. There was a lot of written about this in the press. We were very close to bankruptcy, which is a shocking thing for a company this size. And from it emerged probably the second greatest leader the company has had, Anne Mulcahy. So she was our chairman. She'd been in the company for many years. She quickly realised that we needed some new value propositions to take to our customers and to take to the shareholders. And based upon our modest success in our shed at the end of the garden, we formed a new business called Xerox Global Services. And suddenly life changed. We had a plan. We had to meet expectations in terms of growing and developing this business, and we had to support Xerox, the technology company, in terms of achieving it. One of the critical things, and I think regardless of whether you're doing this as a business, as an offering, or inside your customer, the really important thing we learned was tuning into our clients. What actually is it our clients are trying to achieve, and how can we configure a service that helps them deliver that? And there were a couple of epiphany moments around this in our company when we really figured out actually what customers wanted in the not so exciting area of printing is to get control of their costs and reduce their total cost of ownership of printing inside their organisation. In the early 90s, we commissioned an independent market research organisation who looked at over 150 different companies across Europe. Not one of those companies measured the cost of printing, not one. And they were seriously large companies. So we set about trying to measure it, and we were shocked. Between 2 and 8% of the turnover of these companies were being spent on print-related tasks. We took our findings back to some of the CFOs of those companies. They accused us of being liars. You can't be right. It's ridiculous. Printing is something that gets done here. We had independent audited evidence of that, and suddenly our new world was born. And the customers then recognized that really what they were looking for us, or our value proposition to them, was delivering a service that helped them to get their cost of ownership reduced within printing inside their business. Don't worry about the technology infrastructure needed to do it. We will figure out how many machines you want to deliver that based upon the capacity that you need inside your organisation. Totally different value proposition, and you pay for it as you use it, as opposed to buying a machine and buying consumables. So understanding total cost of ownership was a massive breakthrough in our business to figure out our value proposition to the customer. Along with it came some pretty big internal challenges. The first thing we realised was to reduce the cost of ownership, actually it's all about rationalising the devices you've got inside the organisation. So we did some assessments of some of our early customers, Sun Microsystems being a notable one. We discovered they had nearly 56,000 assets inside their business relating to printing, copying or faxing. Based upon their consumption needs, we came up with a design that said, actually, we think we can deliver that with 22,000 assets worldwide. More than 50% reduction. So our value proposition to them was, we take over everything, we take all of the volume, but we deliver it upon a rationalised infrastructure. We brought this idea back to Xerox, senior management. Now remember, at that point in time, performance got measured by the number of boxes you sold. So we came back with this brilliant idea that said, we've got this customer, they got 56,000 devices, we're going to take them all out and just give them 22,000 back. How about that? As you can imagine, the phone call from Norwalk came fairly quickly, and we had to go to the corporate head office and explain the idea behind this whole new service offering, which of course was a very sound idea, working on the principle that at the moment, we only have 15% of the total volume with the Sun Microsystems. If we sell this value proposition of a global outsource, we get 100% of the volume. Therefore, overall, Xerox actually gains. So it was born. Managed Print Services on that day was born. And that required us to make some significant investments to have technology that could remotely monitor all of the devices that are inside a customer from one of our service centres, so we could see what the health of the machines were. Do we need to dispatch an engineer to fix it? Is it running out of consumables? Do we need to have a just-in-time supply chain built into it to deliver consumables as they were needed, and to make sure that we had a set of software controls to enable the customers within our client organisations to control the use of print as well. So there were a number of $1 million worth of software investment that had to go into developing the service delivery infrastructure around the actual boxes that we're also trying to sell to the customer. Then we made another discovery, which again, for a company as proud as Xerox, sometimes is difficult to get your head around this. The fact is, customers actually do have other manufacturers' equipment than ours. Amazing. How could they ever consider doing that? But they do. So we then thought, okay, this is now tricky. So if we're approaching a customer and we want to take control and reduce their total cost of print ownership, and they have assets which have been supplied by another supplier under a lease contract. How can we supply an enterprise agreement with them without taking responsibility for those assets? So we took a leaf out of the ITO outsourcing book and we said, right, we will provide a service not only based on Xerox's equipment, but also on our competitors' equipment at all. Never done before in the industry. Guess what? Phone call came through from Stanford. You guys have lost it again. Why are you delivering service on someone else's equipment? We're a product company. So again, we went through the conversation, and obviously the benefit to us as a company is we take over existing assets through the life of a 5-year contract. Those assets will be replaced with Xerox assets, so we win in the long term. The reason I share these stories with you, and they're amusing looking back at it, I can assure you they were not amusing at the time when you're trying to build a business. It's about getting people to change their mindsets and think about the outcome of what you're trying to do in a totally different way than what they have done before. That's what we've learned service design is all about. And it's an issue that we need to understand clearly to communicate to our customers, but most importantly to communicate internally so we can get the organisation behind these new business ideas as opposed to opposing them. Things were then beginning to look much better. So for the first time ever, the corporation decided not to spend money, R&D money, so we spend a considerable portion of our turnover on R&D. We have a very good heritage on it, but stopped spending it on building new boxes and gave R&D to us, the services business, to help us invest and build our service delivery infrastructure and the supporting technology that went behind it. That was another interesting challenge, trying to build a business case behind RD&E investment in services. Quite a different business case model than what you would see in terms of a traditional product type business case. But fortunately, based on our success, the corporation diverted a modest amount. We say we had the nuts and bolts budget off of the big equipment budget, but it was just what we needed to develop our infrastructure. Because by now we were growing to a substantial business. We were nearly a $2 billion business worldwide. And so we had to, again, recognize now we need to step up in our infrastructure to actually properly support a services business. So here we are, investing in service delivery centers on a global basis, connecting those service delivery centers up so we can provide 24/7 cover to all of our customers, ensuring that we have the appropriate governance in place for us pursuing really substantial deals. The biggest contract that we wrote during this period was nearly £750 million contract with the UK government, Department of Works and Pensions. I mean, that is a totally different type of contract that you're entering into than selling them 5,000 copiers. Totally different type of contract. So substantial investments in our business governance and infrastructure to enable us to conduct that business safely and in a way that will comply to the GAAP accounting rules that we were governed by as being part of an American corporation. During this period, the rest of the company began to woke up. So the belligerent country managers who used to haul us in and say, what the hell are you doing, selling paperless systems? And we want to go and sell more equipment, why aren't you selling services? Suddenly the rest of the company woke up to the fact that actually the whole market's now changing. And everyone jumped on the bandwagon within the company, say everyone. We developed, at this point, a strategy to take our services not just to our direct customers, but also into the channel, because we could see that the growth in the market size was going into the SMB business as well as the enterprise business. And so it was rather amusing to see a lot of the people 10 years ago who were very negative about this business, suddenly, it's the best thing since sliced bread, what can we do to get involved and to protect our bonuses? Then an unbelievably big change happened to our business. So this is Ursula Burns. She's the current CEO of Xerox. She took over from Anne in 2009. What was becoming clear at that stage was that this little services business had become quite significant. By this time, we were a $3 billion part of the corporation, significant part of the business. And what also became clear was that, where is the 10, 15-year future for a company like Xerox that's made its money out of paper, when our whole love affair with paper is in the process of changing, both in our personal life as well as in our business life, because technology is now catching up and providing a viable alternative to paper, particularly around tablets and smartphones as well. So Ursula made a huge decision with the support of our board, and went and acquired a US company called ACS, Affiliated Computer Services, the largest independent BPO, business process outsourcing, and IT outsourcing business at that time. And suddenly, this was the transformational step that said this hobby that started in the shed at the end of the Xerox garden, actually, this moment in time, Ursula's vision heralds the change, actually, of the whole company into a services-based company. To put a perspective around the magnitude of this acquisition, at the time, we were a $14 billion corporation. We paid $6.5 billion for ACS. So the acquisition cost was nearly 50% of the size of the whole company. That's how big a deal this was. And so Ursula, very well written about and cited as being one of the visionary leaders in US corporate life, really taking this bold stage to change the company. And so today our value proposition is still the same. It's how can we make life simpler for our customers. But today we have a business that specializes in transportation. So many of the ticketing systems, congestion systems, toll charging systems across Europe and North America are Xerox delivered. We have an HR outsourcing business that takes over and provides comp and benefit planning for staff employees, finance and accounting business. We are delivering systems into hospitals to enable them to both digitize patient records and then analyze care pathways using some of our analytics engines to deliver healthcare a lot more effectively, and we still sell copiers and printers. So a fundamentally different business going forwards. And, interesting, if you look at some of the lessons learned that we've taken out of this. So for those of you who are going on your own servitization journey within your manufacturing customers, so the first thing is managing financial expectation inside your business. A services business model is totally different to a product business model. The way you invest in it, the way you recognize your revenue and profit within it, the way you have to protect yourselves around it. People are critical in terms of delivering this forwards, and in fact, in many cases, they are your product within that. It takes whole new approaches to business management and governance as to how you go and measure the risk of your business and support that. You've got to stop developing and start innovating, something that Chester did on day one. You have to drive your innovation with your customers. That's how you learn about what goes within this. And as I said at the beginning, suddenly you end up with clients as opposed to customers, and hopefully long-term, deep, lasting business relationships with the customers, which our investors love. So I want to finish with Chester Carlston again, an amazing man which I never met, unfortunately, who had a very strong vision. And these were the 5 principles that he really founded the Haloid Corporation, which ended up becoming Xerox. And I was reading these the other day, and I thought, actually, it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether it's high tech, medium tech, low tech, whether it's product or services, having these principles are very good yardsticks to drive yourself by. So there's always a simpler way. I think that's what our job's all about, delivering services. How can we make life simpler for our customers? Second thing, you don't have to be an inventor to invent. That's a very profound point. In most of our services contracts with our customers, The end users understand where the issues are. They struggle to explain and articulate them in a way that we can understand and servitize. Don't give up. It's tough, and you don't always get things right the first time, so be resilient, keep going. Working together, so it's rarely one idea in isolation that solves these things, and above all, it's excellence that counts. You know, how can you be as excellent as you can in every dimension you be? So there we are, a few thoughts to leave you with. Hopefully you found that interesting, maybe at a slightly different level than technical service design, but it shows you what can be done when you really get on the services message. And I'll say, for a company like Xerox, it has been absolutely transformational. Thanks very much for your time.